So Didi, why should Indonesians be concerned about climate change?
Okay, Indonesia is an island group of 17,000 islands. Indonesia is an archipelago of 17,000 islands, and some of them are low-lying. So people talk about seats, about small island developing states, but some of the islands in Indonesia has the character of seats in that they do not have adequate infrastructure, for instance, access to electricity, energy, and the climate have actually come to show its impacts. Climate change have come to show its impact by changing the rainfall pattern that affect agriculture and livelihood of the people. And then also the climate change increase the level of the sea. So climate change climate change impact on sea level, that the sea level has risen in some places, and that will affect the fishery resources. Even the sea level rise will impact on the coastal agriculture, for instance corn and then paddy. It will become inundated with the rise of the sea level. And also there will be changing pattern in diseases. Emerging infectious diseases like malaria will come to the higher mountains.
What political commitments has the government of Indonesia made to tackle climate change?
Yes, there are some good progress, and with it, of course, there are political repercussions which may hamper the encouraging progress that has actually been made. So I'm pleased to share that President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono has taken a strong leadership, beginning from his statement in the G20 meeting in Pittsburgh in 2009, that Indonesia will commit to reducing GHG emission by 26% for the year until the year 2020. So reduction of reduction of greenhouse gas emission by 26% by the year 2020. And if there is international cooperation, 41% of greenhouse gas emission can be achieved by the year 2020. That is now quite famous. The commitment known as the Pittsburgh 2020 commitment by the President of the Republic of Indonesia. And this has been followed by a number of presidential regulations, because as in any other country, policy has to be translated into legal products. And the President and his minister has done actually this, starting in 2001 with regulation on mitigation of greenhouse gas emission for all the provinces in Indonesia, and this has been taken up by the provinces in Indonesia. So that is one policy that has been very encouraging, how the President has taken the lead. And then the international cooperation also helped. The Kingdom of Norwegia offered Indonesia $1 billion grant for REDD+ mechanism, but actually this is involving more comprehensive governance reform. It is not just payment for carbon, but it calls for for more comprehensive structural changes. For instance, establishing the REDD+ institution, establishing the moratorium that has actually been implemented, and ensuring that the REDD+ strategy is in place for Indonesia and in the regions. So in the province now, each has their own REDD+ strategies. Climate compatible development is being mainstreamed through different ministries. For instance, the Ministry of Energy now has a blueprint for energy mix, so that the energy source does not only come from fossil fuel, but very diverse source of renewable energy. For instance, there is a lot of sun in Indonesia. There is a lot of water, especially if Indonesia maintains its forests. And then also there is good potential for wind, for ocean current, even from biogas.
What gets you really excited about climate compatible development in Indonesia? What have you seen on the ground that works really well?
Yes, it is exciting to watch and support in each our individual and very modest ways climate compatible development in Indonesia. It is very exciting to consider that the president himself, it is very encouraging to consider that the president of the Republic Indonesia himself have taken strong leadership, and this has been followed by his line ministries, and it is encouraging that this has been translated to proper policies. It is not perfect, but good measure has been undertaken, including to instill or to integrate greenhouse gas mitigation considerations into the 5-yearly development plan. So that is a very strong base to refer to, the 5-yearly development plan. So it is from 2010 to 2014 to this year. This year the president ends his term, which is a second term. For example of an encouraging milestone, there is a project for renewable energy. It is a pilot, but it is delivered from the rural level to district, and then supported by the ministry. Actually, Climate and Development Knowledge Network, which is an international program, has been instrumental in devising this small scale but impactful project. Despite the large amount of funding for climate change mitigation and adaptation, mobilizing the funds has not been actually mobilizing using the fund have not been easy. So the funding remains scarce, but in this project by Climate and Development Knowledge Network, it has been a proof of concept that local actors can actually be facilitated to work together and serve as their own independent power producer. So they depend mainly on water and fuel, and for electricity it does not have to depend on government, and especially it does not have to depend on central government, and especially it does not have to depend on fossil fuel. And this is kind of proof of concept that innovations with small input in terms of finance can go a long way to convince general public that climate change can be responded from the local level, and that everyone has something to contribute, from the villager to local government to national government, even from international program quarters. So in the island of Lombok, which is a very popular tourism destination, but in actual lack electricity for most of its inhabitants, CDKN has been working for some years, beginning 2011, and has partnered with the Energy Center of the Netherlands, who is actually implementing the project with University of Mataram, and that makes a strategic partnership because ECN has the expertise and University of Mataram has the calling powers. The local government listen to them, and in that way, the program facilitate for independent power producer to develop or to generate from energy sources, especially water and solar. And recently, the thinking is to capture the off-grid opportunity, meaning that places where there is no grid infrastructure. In terms of independent power producer, the program encourages facilitation, like how to do feasibility studies. It is very expensive, but the CDKN and ECN cooperation with University of Mataram allow the local independent power producer to access source of expertise for feasibility studies, so it can be the feasibility studies can be conducted without too much expense, and training, data, and information can be provided through the program to incentivize activities in local produce of powers.
What do you think are the main challenges for climate compatible development in Indonesia?
As mentioned, there has been good progress under the leadership of President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. As mentioned, there is also challenge. For instance, the same government also issues policy on acceleration of master plan for acceleration of economic development in Indonesia, that is not really in line with economic sustainable and climate compatible development. For instance, in certain region it is just to encourage the exploitation of mining resource without serious consideration for forest conservation and sustainable use. Equally serious issue is how to convince or to proactively involve the ministers of the parliament, because climate change policy in Indonesia needs also the backing of the parliament. The government has done a great job with policy, but there is also need for proper parliamentary hearing and endorsement and even passing of the laws, because only enabling policy from the parliament can justify the many policies and funding that Indonesia actually have to implement CCD, to guide and implement CCD.
Great answer.
I have to explain that we also have optimism for the parliament. The Indonesian parliament has recently formed a Green Caucus and are open to international discussion, for instance with climate parliament.
How do gender issues come into climate compatible development? Are women and men differently impacted by climate change? Do they play different roles in the solutions?
Yes, certainly. If climate change relate to poverty, then the gender issue is very important in mainstreaming different responses, because if given the chance, the women are often, and there is research in India showing this, better manager of resources, whether it water or agriculture or fishery resources. In Indonesia, the gender perspective has increasingly been appreciated by development partners, and also by the Indonesian government, so that development programs should segregate the exploration of perspectives between men and women.
Ultimately, are you optimistic or pessimistic that climate change and development action can go hand in hand?
Yes. The short answer is very optimistic, but let me be a pessimist first. That in saying that we in the world are facing serious problems with changing weather patterns, with increasing sea level rise that affect our livelihoods. Thereby, we have in this times of serious threat, we have no way to go but to be optimist. And I'm very optimist considering that the government of Indonesia has taken the lead, and there is some challenges within the country, yes, but the outlook is that Indonesia will continue with its climate compatible development. And I would like to emphasize that Indonesia cannot do this alone, but there has to be cooperation with other countries. I would like to, as a taxpayer from Indonesia, I would like to appreciate many countries like Britain. Britain has helped greatly in capacity building for spatial planning that has great repercussions for forest resources and its use in Indonesia. Kingdom of Norway has managed to encourage holistic governance reform in the forestry sector. It is uphill struggle, but there have been some progress, including with the moratorium. And then with the European Union, the European Union last February has just ratified a voluntary partnership agreement of European Union and Indonesia for forest enforcement, for forest law enforcement, governance and trade, which will incentivize sustainable and monitored timber harvesting from Indonesia. So once again, there has to be optimism, and there is good appreciation for not only what Indonesia has been doing, but also what other countries has been doing to support the climate change mitigation and adaptation in a big country like Indonesia. Mhm.